Hello and welcome to this Minecraft tutorial on floors. Floors are kind of an important part of any room you build, and they can change how the room feels quite a lot. So when building a room, it's important to choose the right floor. So pretty much anyone will know the generic wool floor, and obviously you can do any kind of pattern, not just the checkered one. And this is fairly cheap because wool is easy to get, depending of course on the colors you want, but most colors are easy to get as well. And this looks fairly warm, depending on colors of course, and has a bit of a carpet look, so in like kind of a living room or something this would look fairly good. Again, obviously also depending on the walls, but they're not covered in this tutorial. So this can be a good choice if you're building like a family home, a house that's just supposed to look like a home rather than some kind of like a castle or something. So that can be a good choice, and it's obviously easy to build and yeah, as I said, fairly cheap. So then this next option, this is also very cheap because all you need is wood and dirt, and dirt is obviously easy to get because it's everywhere. And wood is also a resource you get early on, and it only requires you to chop down trees, and each block of wood gives you 4 wood planks, so that's fairly easy to get as well. And this obviously doesn't look much like a home. It looks like grass, because it is grass obviously. This might look good if you're like building some kind of tree house or something that's supposed to look a bit natural, because the wood is kind of a natural material and it fits quite well to the grass. Of course, the grass color might be different if you're in a different biome. This is the standard grass color, I guess. In a jungle it looks a lot more green, a lot brighter. In a desert it looks fairly terrible, like grass would in a desert, I guess. But yeah, in general this is a good choice if you're building something that's like natural. For example, as I said, in a tree house this would look kind of like going with the topic. You could have like leaves and all the wood around, and then this floor would fit quite well with the color. You could also use green wool, but that looks fairly artificial. It's not like a natural green, in my opinion. So this is for something that's not supposed to be terribly realistic, or not supposed to be like a living room or something. This might make a good choice, depending of course on the topic of your general house. This is quite a fancy floor you could use. It's basically one way you could make floor lighting, because the lava gives off light, which is important to consider, because light is in large rooms, lighting is an issue. You can't just put like torches on the wall, it's not going to reach into the middle. So if you build a very large room, you might need floor lighting or ceiling lighting. And if the room is also very high, like if you were say building a castle or something, you pretty much need some kind of floor lighting if you don't want like objects standing on the floor. Because if you've got a large room and you've got torches standing on the ground, it can look fairly terrible. So this would be one option, maybe not exactly right for a castle, but it's got this kind of, I don't know, floor heating thing going on. Of course this is difficult and also fairly dangerous to build, because the lava can burn you. So if you're not in creative mode, you have to be really careful. And getting this amount of lava for larger rooms, this is just a 10 by 10 room, so that's already 100 buckets of lava. Getting this can also be quite difficult. And then covering it in glass is a good idea, because you can see through it, so you get this lava effect. You could of course use other materials that are transparent, but yeah, you have to be careful, because some transparent blocks, like say leaves, They obviously wouldn't work because they burn, which is something you have to be really careful about when working with lava. If you've got wooden walls or wooden objects standing around, they may very well catch on fire. So really be careful what you're building in this room if you choose to go for this floor option. But the advantage obviously is that it's giving off light, so you don't need to worry about like lighting for this room. Now, a lot of people are tempted to use random, very expensive blocks for floor. So this is like redstone blocks, and obviously all these blocks are fairly expensive because they require a lot of materials. But the redstone blocks, they have a texture to them, so they've got kind of a border, which might look good, but usually doesn't. You see they're like getting darker in the middle. This would maybe fit in if you're going for like some sort of fiery, hellish look, because obviously it looks a bit like something that's glowing from being red hot, I guess. But other than, yeah, not being lava, obviously you can stand on it without being burned to death. So maybe an option there, but generally it doesn't really look very good. Similarly, this green of emeralds, it's a very bright color, and if you've got a whole room laid out in this, it really hurts your eyes. Yeah, one way around there. There we go. So this might be something you could use for like a column in a wall or something, but generally speaking, emerald blocks don't make very good flooring. Similarly, gold blocks, they're not quite as bright, so they don't hurt as much to the eye if you've got lots of them. But still, they're not generally a good choice because they don't really, I don't know, they don't look very much like a floor. This would be something you do to show off that you've got lots of gold, but it doesn't really work with most rooms. The iron stuff, the iron blocks, they look fairly industrial in a way. So this would be like, doesn't look like a floor of a home, but maybe in some sort of, I don't know, industrial complex if you're building something like that. Maybe a hospital. This would be kind of a floor to use there. Diamond blocks are probably the most expensive choice you could make. And generally speaking, they have quite a pleasant color. Of course, ignoring the fact that putting diamond blocks in the floor is going to encourage thieving on a server, and it's going to make you look like a bit of an arrogant sot. But in general, this might look good if you've got some water theme going on, because this blue really fits in well with water streams and like sand around. Kind of makes it look like a tropical theme thing, so can work well there. Lapis blocks are also blue, but they've got like a nice texture, and they're really quite a lot darker. So maybe if you're building something that's supposed to look deep sea-ish, lapis blocks would be a good way to go, because they really look kind of like, I don't know, solidified deep sea water of some sort. So this could be a good choice. Again, you should probably not make the entire floor from any of these blocks if you're choosing to. Maybe the iron if you want this sterile walkway look. But these can be good as decoration, I guess. And of course, lapis blocks are probably the cheapest you find here, because lapis is not that uncommon anymore. This floor option is fairly strange. This is all crafting tables. And it looks a bit like, I don't know, some sort of random floor pattern. If you like this sort of stuff, this is also fairly cheap. You basically need one wood block per crafting table, so not terribly expensive. And this pattern might be something you actually get on the floor. So maybe something to choose for a kitchen if you want this wooden floor kitchen look. Again, they've got a certain texture, so they this doesn't really make a continuous area. It's, you've got these like borders and patterns and stuff breaking it up. So that's something to bear in mind, depending on, well, how you want the room to look, really. This is more of a fancy option. And, well, this is obviously not an exhaustive list of floor possibilities. This, again, would look well in a sort of natural environment kind of thing, like a treehouse or something. Or a cave, maybe. It's lighting. It's got lighting in floor. It's glowstones below grass leaf blocks. The leaf blocks are sort of transparent. They filter out some of the light, but let most of it through. I think they take away 2 light levels, so that's bearable. And yeah, this is a good option because you don't see the glowstone directly. Glowstone sometimes looks a bit unnatural depending on where you put it, so in a treehouse this would probably be a better choice, simply because you've got you've got the leaves on top, so it looks kind of like more tree themed. And then you can obviously fill up with whatever you choose. The glowstone is fairly expensive in the sense that going to the nether is not always pleasant, especially if you're not able to switch to peaceful, for example on a server. So you obviously you don't even need this whole ring of glowstone. You can leave out a lot of it and it doesn't affect the lighting very much. And then it would depend on where you're building this, what other blocks to use. You could make this kind of like, you could also build this in an underwater themed area, and then you would have to change the wood maybe for I don't know, maybe something, a material you also used in the walls, or you could use like lapis blocks or blue wool or something that looks fitting to the theme. This would be something you use in a treehouse, so you've got wood here and wood planks in the middle. Yeah, you could obviously use different kinds of wood planks as well. They just look fairly natural, so it seems fitting for a treehouse. And this is sandstone. Whatever sandstone you use, they all look the same from the top. So this is a very, very light, very bright floor, without being sterile, like totally white. It still has some texture, but it's not like got a strict border, so it looks fairly continuous. Obviously this would be the choice to go for in a desert house, but also in other houses where you want something light to, well, maybe make the room not as depressing. This looks very light and quite pleasant, depending on also what you use in the walls, of course. And you could also combine this with the leaf lighting thing, because this color also, it resembles the birchwood planks quite well. So this actually fits in well with the leaves. Of course, if you're doing this in the desert, the leaves might look a bit different. Now next we have stone slabs. They have a strict border around them, but it's not too bad. This looks maybe something like a bathroom floor, or again something industrial, because it's very sterile, it's very cold. It doesn't really feel warm, so not really something to go for in a house. But as I said, fairly decent for, I don't know, maybe a walkway, maybe if you're in a cave, this could be a good floor. And you need to bear in mind when you're using slabs, you could put them on the top, so this is, I could place stuff right on this block. If I placed it like half a block lower, then stuff I placed would be floating in the air. Which can be something you want, but generally I think it tends to look fairly terrible if you've got stuff floating around, so bear that in mind. Of course, if you put it at a half block height, mobs won't be able to spawn, so you could like build a room with half slab it, and nothing would be able to spawn, even if you don't have any lighting, because this room doesn't really have any good options for lighting. This is something I've seen people use for whatever reason. This is obsidian, and it looks terrible. It's really dark, even in the middle of the day, where everything is lit up perfectly. This looks really, really dark. So this is definitely not a room you would put in a house. It's way too gloomy and depressing. The advantage obviously being that it's difficult to undo, it's difficult to grief, and it's difficult to, I don't know, blow up. So if a creeper blows up here, it wouldn't hurt the obsidian. Obsidian is also expensive to get because you need lava source blocks, which are sometimes rare and usually dangerous to get. So this is not really a good option. I would not recommend using obsidian for your floor, unless you really want this dark theme. But there are, in my opinion, better options for that. Now this is something you might use in, I don't know, if you need the properties of ice. You can get ice in survival by using Silk Touch. Obviously the property being that you kind of slide around on it, which is useful. It makes you run faster if you move over it, but it doesn't really look very good. It's kind of transparent a bit, but yeah, in general ice looks a bit, I don't know, very cold for obvious reasons. So you might use this if you want the speed boost it gives you. If you're running and jumping, you move faster. Or if you say, if you're trying to transport items around, you would also use glass ice on the floor. But generally speaking, I'd avoid it. And another obvious problem is ice melts, so you can't really put torches or glowstone or lava or anything for lighting, because the ice would melt, turn into water, and that would kind of ruin the effect. This is another very cold option. It's stone bricks, which look better in the wall. And if you've got a wall made of stone brick and a floor made of stone brick, it looks really desolate. It doesn't look alive or colorful at all. If you want stone bricks on the floor, you should either put it in a place where you don't want this lively look. It will look very sterile and very dead. Or you really have to be careful about breaking it up, putting like leaf lighting or something green, something maybe a bit colorful. You could like put stone brick and make walkways of wool, so it looks like a carpet. But yeah, putting stone brick floors in an entire room will make it look very desolate. This is endstone. It looks very bright, but in kind of like a sulfur blighted kind of way. It's hard to say really. It doesn't look like a natural light. Comparing it to the sandstone, this looks a lot more poisonous, like, I don't know, something fungal. It's really difficult to put the finger on, especially since I don't have any fingers. But yeah, this is maybe a good option if it fits with the walls. Obviously endstone is hard to get because firstly there's a limited supply even in the end. Large but limited. And you have to get to the end, which requires getting ender eyes and finding a stronghold and then getting there, and if you want to harvest this in peace, you need to also kill the ender dragon. And, well, you obviously also need to kill him to have an easy way out, otherwise you'd need to use an ender chest. But yeah, this is... I don't really know what kind of place you would use this. Maybe to go together with a sandstone to have like some sort of separation between rooms using this. But in general it really doesn't look as good as the sandstone does, in my opinion. This is something a bit weird, I guess. You could put jack-o'-lanterns on the floor, the advantage being that it's floor lighting, but they have a very distinct texture to them, so it doesn't look continuous at all. I would recommend, if you do this, to break it up. I'm using lapis here to kind of contrast, because orange and blue fit together quite well, in my opinion. You could obviously use whatever you choose to, as long as it's not like a complete eye blight. Eyesore, rather. But aside from that, jack-o'-lanterns could be an option for floor lighting as well. But because of their strong texture, generally they don't look as good as like leaf lighting or just putting glowstone. You could also use glowstone lamps, but they require powering and are fairly expensive because they need redstone as well. So, something to bear in mind. And lastly, I've got kind of a selection of black and white checkered patterns. I'm hoping the screen tearing isn't too terrible. There's multiple options for really like light blocks, I guess. This is quartz. It has a very very weak texture to it, so it looks mostly like white, but not completely white. This is iron block, which, as I've shown before, they look kind of sterile, but very very light as well. White wool. It looks kind of a bit dirtied because there's a lot of gray areas in the texture as well. This is chiseled quartz, which looks a bit different on the top. Has more structure to it. And this is snow. Snow looks very cold because it's got this light blue thing going on. So this would like really make a room look very cold. It doesn't melt, so you could put lighting. But yeah, this would maybe something. Yeah, you could put this in like a bathroom or a kitchen, maybe something that you don't want to look very bright. But if you want the place to look a bit more, I don't know, friendly, this chiseled quartz looks better because it's not quite as brightly white. It's got some sort of brown things, slightly brown. The wool obviously looks a bit like carpet, so for a checkered carpet you might want to use this because it goes well with black wool, and black wool is pretty much the only choice you have for a really black block. I also showed obsidian here, which has this kind of purple going on, which doesn't really look well usually because it doesn't fit with anything really. And nether brick is also quite dark, but it's more red than black really. Which can be what you want. It looks a lot less threatening than the obsidian. So this could be a good choice if you want a dark room that doesn't look quite as terrible as the obsidian. And normal quartz would be the choice to go for if you want this really clean look. It doesn't look as cold as the snow, but similarly bright. So a kitchen that looks a bit more, I don't know, hospitable, I guess. That would be a good place to use the quartz blocks. Yeah, obviously these choices depend on your texture pack. What I've used here is the default texture pack. If you use, I don't know, different texture packs, many of them make cobblestone look really good. So, because cobblestone's easy to get, it's so people can use that for building. And it might be that in your texture pack, like, the lava texture looks terrible, so you don't want to use it, or it might be in your texture pack that the crafting tables look completely different. So yeah, obviously this only really applies to something that's close to the default look of Minecraft. And as I said, this is obviously not exhaustive. There are probably endless amounts of possibilities to put floor in a room. But these are some options to maybe inspire you, and yeah, when you build the floor, really consider what the room is supposed to look like. And what you want to achieve. If you want, like, a family home, you would probably not use, like, the end stone or stone brick or something. And then again, if you're building something that's supposed to look like a castle, then the stone brick might be a good idea, maybe broken up with wool for carpeting or something. But yeah, you would not expect a castle to have, I don't know, this leaf lighting floor thing. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope this helps inspire you in your builds. Goodbye.